Alright lads, welcome to a new kind of format for my review videos. Today we're going to be taking a look at the Dardo. This is a new rank 6 battle rating 9.0 Italian infantry fighting vehicle. And we're looking at the tech tree here. It's located at the very end of the tank destroyer line. It should be a great little addition. Now to unlock this tank, you're obviously going to get to the 6th rank of the Italian tech tree, and it's going to cost you 250,000 research points before purchasing the vehicle for a cost of 690,000 silver lions. You'll then of course have to crew the vehicle for the cost of an additional 200,000 silver lions. Now with all top tier vehicles, I'd strongly suggest getting the expert and ace qualifications for this vehicle. Now for the expert it's going to cost you 690,000 silver lions, and for the ace 2,100 golden eagles, so pretty pricey. So moving on to the repair cost, and at the time of recording it has a repair cost of 4,269 silver lions. This is just straight after the patch has been released, so that might go up in the future. Moving on to the rewards, and with a premium account, we have 452% of a RP modifier and 255% of a silver lion modifier. They're not the best to be honest, but not terrible. Alright, so finally in terms of lineups, sitting at battle rating 9.0, you do have a wealth of Italian vehicles to go with it. You can have the Centauro, the OF40 which is already in my lineup. I haven't unlocked the Leopard 1A5 or the OF40 Mark 2A yet, but they will be very good additions at battle rating 9.0. The Armour 74 HVG, even though it's a little bit lower, battle rating 8.0, that's still good enough. The Saddam 25 here anti-air, it's more than good enough really, to be honest. In terms of closer support, the Sagittario, which is the new plane, that should be quite good. I haven't had a chance to fly it out yet though, sorry. But the good old G91R4, if you have this is a pretty good premium plane. You also do have the Tech Tree R1, which I do not think has as good ground attack options, but you get my point. There's both a good lineup in terms of ground vehicles and in terms of close air support. Alright, so moving on to the engine and mobility, and the Dardo is powered by an engine producing 520 horsepower, and combined with the vehicle's weight of 23.5 tons, it gives the tank a power to weight ratio of 22.1 horsepower per ton. That is actually pretty good. The tank does feel pretty snappy. It's not amazingly fast, it's not as good as I'd say the M3A3, that's just going from feeling though. The tank does feel fairly fast. Now moving on to the top speed of 70 kilometers per hour, sorry. It is pretty good. You do get up to that top speed. It does take a while to get there, but that is kind of standard really. You're not going to get up to top speed like a Orbital or a Red Kampfwagen, but it is good to drive. I don't really have any complaints about it. As we'll see shortly, the mobility in combination with the other feature of this tank make it very lethal. Alright boys and girls, so before we get onto the gun, we're going to cover the armor and survivability. So straight away, first thing to note, we do have a crew of 3 men. Now we do have that transmission and engine at the front of the vehicle, which is going to give us some additional protection. But just bear in mind that with only a crew of 3 men, if you lose 2 crew members, so a round comes in here and kills the gunner and the commander, then the tank is dead. We move on to the armor and protection. We're going to be using the BMP2's 30mm cannon. You can see the lower frontal plate gives around 70mm of protection. The upper frontal plate, it does increase up to about 164, so about 7 inches of protection, but bear in mind that is because of the heavy sloping. Now the turret, it's a little bit hit and miss to be honest. There are parts which you can penetrate, there are parts which you can't. But all in all, from the front, this vehicle is a pretty much kind of a joke when it comes to armor protection. You will be protected a little bit from autocannons, but in terms of main guns from like 105s or 120mm, it's an easy penetration. Now we turn the camera to the side of the vehicle. Our armor protection is awful, as you can imagine. Down to around about an inch of armor. You can see here between 30 and 20mm. Nothing's going to be stopping here. Against APF SDS rounds, it's probably not going to hull break, because there's not enough armor to actually do any spalling. But against high explosive or heat FS, pretty much just going to be a one-shot kill, especially with that new overpressure mechanic. And again, the rear of the vehicle where the infantry would get in and out, about half an inch of armor really, so nothing special. So in overall guys, in terms of survivability, not great, but we're going to be coming on to the offensive next, the guns, and that is where this tank really does shine. Alright boys and girls, the moment you've all been waiting for, we come on to the firepower of the vehicle. and this is armed with the 25mm Oerlikon KBA BO2 cannon. It's pretty much the same gun that's found on the M3A3 and the M3 Bradley, I believe. I think it just has a higher cyclic fire rate. But in terms of vertical guidance characteristics, we have 10 degrees of gun depression and 6 degrees of gun elevation. So you will be able to use this as a makeshift anti-helicopter vehicle, which is something that I always enjoy. Being able to kill helicopters is just beautiful, especially in this battle rating at 9.0, where you will get those annoying little American bastards with the AH-1Gs. But moving on to the weapon reloading skill under the tank loader, you can see that we have a base reload speed of 10.4 seconds, which drops down to 8 seconds with an ace crew. Now this is the changing of a belt, so if you have 200 rounds in a belt for say, then you shoot them all, it'll take you 8 seconds maximum to reload, 8 seconds minimum to reload a belt. So nothing too amazing, but nothing terrible to be honest. Now if we go to the targeting skill under the gunner section, we have a base targeting speed of 40 degrees per second, and when we got an ace crew that rises to 57.3 degrees per second. So just with your great gun elevation, you do have a pretty good turret traverse rate as well. You will be able to track pretty fast moving helicopters and planes. Nothing compared to like a Gepard or anything, but it's a pretty good vehicle to be honest. Now we also have 2 missile launchers, as we can see here. These are the BGM-71 TOWs. As I mentioned previously in the armor section, these are classed as external ammo racks. They can't really be destroyed by a high explosive, I believe, because they've got this like shell casing around them. But they are still a weak point of the tank, so just watch out for that. So moving on to the ammunition, and our stock belt does have an APDS round on it, which gives you 81mm of penetration. You do then have a pure high explosive round belt, which will be used against helicopters, planes, that sort of stuff. We also have a pure APDS round belt, which again gives you 81mm of armor. Pretty good velocity on this belt, as you'd expect from APDS round, but nothing comes close to our final belt, which is the PBM09 rounds. These are basically APFSDS rounds shrunk down to like 25mm. It's kind of like the gun that's found on the M3A3 Bradley, except these things fire a hell of a lot faster, as we'll see when we get into some gameplay. But they do only have 92mm of penetration, but the difference between this belt and the M791 is that muzzle velocity. You can see here that we have a muzzle velocity of 1,385 meters per second, and that is just insane. That's basically, it's not as good like a main battle tank's main gun, but it's getting there. So even at very, very long range, you can just spam these rounds at people and you're pretty much going to hit them. We now come on to the missiles that this tank can carry, and we have 2 options. The first is a TOW 2. This is a heat round, so it's a high explosive anti-tank. It's basically like a SAKO missile where you have to guide the missile to physically impact the target. It has a range of 3.75 kilometers and 800mm of penetration with its warhead of 4.1 kilograms. Now this is pretty good to be honest. It's perfectly fine when you first unlock the tank. It isn't going to be very effective. It isn't tandem warhead, but it is going to struggle against the Soviet main battle tanks with the Contact 1, Contact 5 or Relict armor. Just bear that in mind. Now the way to defeat said Russian vehicles is with the TOW 2B. Now this is a top-down attack missile, meaning it flies above an enemy and then forces the blast down into the softer roof of the vehicle. Now you do only carry, you have slightly less penetration because it is they have to fiddle with the warhead to make it fire downwards. You only have 430mm of penetration, but again you are attacking the weaker roof armor of vehicles. The way it's implemented into the game was a little bit janky when they first added it last patch, but now it seems actually it seems like it's working pretty well now. So once you unlock the TOW 2Bs, I don't see any reason at all to go back to the TOW 2s. Apart from the main gun, we do have a rifle caliber machine gun located here, I believe. This tank does have thermal imaging in the gunner's sight. It does not have it in the commander's sight, which is a little bit unfortunate. Now it is only the first generation thermals. So not the best, but it's more than enough to get the job done. If you're familiar with the thermal optics in the Leopard A1A1, it's pretty much the same as that. So it's a little bit fuzzy at long range, but it's perfectly well to get the job done. With all that being said, lads, let's get into some gameplay. I do kind of want to get a kill with the guns on this thing. Ooh. Rip. Ripperoni. Ripperoni. Wow. How do you wreck an enemy team that quickly? This guy isn't going to get hit. Oh well. This is pretty mean. Well, that worked. These are like the cruisers in there. Hello, Mr. Warrior. This Dardo seems really strong. As long as you manage to spot the enemy first. We've got like all the British like battleships. Wow, rip. Rip, 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 rip. Yeah. To be honest, this is so broken. To conclude, the Dardo is a very powerful addition to the Italian tech tree. While a highly mobile, hard-hitting tanks are certainly not a new thing to the Italians, the Dardo adds a new type of playstyle to the already strong 9.0 lineup. The high rate of fire of the gun, combined with the top-down attack missiles, mobility and thermal optics, give you probably one of the strongest light tanks currently in War Thunder. While nowhere near as dominant as the M3A3 Bradley, this tank still feels like a huge power shift when it comes to balance at 9.0. Whereas before the Italians were stuck with the somewhat mediocre OF-40s and the sluggish Centauros, the Dardo combines the best of both, and gives you a mobile yet powerful light tank that is highly flexible. The Dardo is rapidly becoming one of my favourite tanks at this battle rating, and I fully recommend anyone to grind out this tank. Not only is it one of the best vehicles in the Italian tech tree, but it even goes so far as to say it's one of the best vehicles in the game. Alright lads, thank you very much for watching this video. What do you guys think about this vehicle? If you have any questions or suggestions to improve the channel, then please feel free to leave a comment below. I now have community memberships enabled for the channel. If you'd like access to behind the scenes footage, as well as access to content a few hours early, then please do consider becoming a member. I'd also like to mention that I now have a Twitch account, where I stream pretty frequently. So if you'd like to follow me there, my Twitch handle is SAKO Sniper, the same as this YouTube channel. But if you do enjoy these sorts of reviews, then please do consider leaving a like and subscribing. But more importantly lads, I hope you have a great day, and thank you very much for watching.